Okay, welcome back, everybody. After our quick break there, we are going to sort of move on. We have a few items left on our agenda. It looks, I think, longer than it really is, so we don't have to worry too much. But the next section of our agenda is business arising from the minutes. So section 8.1 is a new sort of section on our agenda. I watched your conversation from the last meeting, which was really great. There are a couple of things that I want to say about the Q&A before we start. And I do have a list. Thank you to Jane, because I have some updates from Jane that we hope to discuss and speak with staff about. But so before we do this Q&A, I would like to just, remind everyone that there may be questions that staff may not have the answer to in room. So we'll just be patient, and then we can, if there's something that is important to us, then we can, certainly add that to the next Q&A. I think that we can't expect staff to be able to pull up everything that we want all the time. And also, I'm always cognizant of like the amount of extra work that we may beget to someone. So, if for example, this committee is asking for something, in terms of a follow-up, and it be something that require work, we need to be aware of that, and we need to sort of assess how relevant it is, and the value in that process. So having said all that, I just, it's just my reminder that it's new, and we're gonna see how this all goes. So best of luck to everyone. We're gonna have a good little discussion, a committee Q&A. So I have a few items. I guess we'll call it a dashboard, just because that's how it appears. So Jane provided me with some items that we're gonna hopefully just quickly talk about. Jane, I'm going to refer to you, if that's okay, like to sort of remind people about certain things. And I'm not going to do it in a particular order, just for reasons. We talked about one of the items already, which was notification distances for PIMs. And that was one of the things that as a group, we needed a little more information on. So again, I expect that that'll come up in future. So the next one that I'm going to bring up, Jane, from January 2025. Oh, there they are. Yay. Yeah, I don't even, we'll do them in order now. So these are the items that sort of are identified as things that need, or we would hope to have a little follow up, or just maybe we have a question or something. So we're going to start with the first one, which is January 24, the Town of Windsor Industrial Lands Study. Some of you may not have been here last year when this discussion was being had, but this was one of the things that sort of the committee thought that there was some follow up required. And I know that member Beasley was somebody who particularly this was of interest to him. I just sort of remember that offhand, but I'm just wondering if anyone would like to look at that first line item and questions or comments for staff about that. I expect that that Paul would have had questions. He's not with us this evening, but does anyone else have a question? Jane.
So the status of it is now that the file is quite big, the report is quite large. So it is now attached to the March minutes of our PAC meeting for review. And so that's where people need to go if they want to look at it,
Okay.
and to if they want to bring it back to consider to update. But it's not to be considered tonight. It's just to let people know where that report is located.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So for more information, refer to the minutes from March 2024, which is, a year ago. So of course, I have no memory of reading those minutes at this point, but I know I did, a year ago. So moving on to the start date, June 24, the Minas Basin flood study. And the action here is that at that point, the committee were requesting a presentation. So this was something that was, last summer. And of course, flood studies are big issues here in our region. But I'm going to throw it out to the floor for questions or comments about this flood study. And staff may be able to answer a question or two for us, but we'll see for sure. So does anyone have a question about the status of the Minas Basin flood study?
If I may, Chair, I do have a bit of an update. I did reach out to the planner at the province who is involved in this just to see if there was a possibility for doing some sort of presentation. So he relayed to me that right now the flood mapping is not for public consumption. So they're looking at releasing them in 2027 once it has been fully completed for the entire province. So at that point, he mentioned there will be a platform where the maps will be shared and supporting materials created. So at this time, it was purely meant to be shared with municipal staff so they can consider the information when updating planning documents. He did, however, offer that he's willing to meet with our committee to discuss the program and its intent, but he wouldn't be able to specifically present the mapping or any of the results of that work being done.
Thank you. KJ.
Closer. So just how, if someone could just help me understand this. So what's the difference between this flood study and the Nova Scotia Coastal Hazardous Map Guide that the province created?
That's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if any of the other planners here are familiar with that at all. Okay, we can bring that information back.
Yeah, just like yeah, okay, cool.
Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, I just got an invite to a mayor's meeting of all 49 municipal units for next week, discussing the future of Nova Scotia's coastline. So it may have some sort of connectivity to this. I just don't know yet, and we will be sitting down with the minister. So I'll probably have some more information to share with council that this committee could follow at the April council meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. No other lights on. So we'll look at October 24 notification distances we talked about. Yay.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
A recommendation that I would put into this as well for the flood study. I would reach out to the Atlantic Infrastructure Management Network. So they're a cooperative of civil engineers and planners who work on exploring different approaches for municipalities to look at obviously infrastructure, and they currently have a project looking at coastal adaptation for rural communities. Not necessarily this project, but a lot of the folks are doing work in Kings County that can, I know we're not in Kings County, but you know, the Bay of Fundy is the Bay of Fundy. Not necessarily what the province is working on, but they have worked on other projects that, and they have an open source model where they like to showcase the research that they're doing that can help municipalities make sound decisions.
Cool. Atlantic Infrastructure Management. What was the last word?
Network.
Network. Okay. I just wanted to, I wrote expert and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Tim. Can I just ask KJ, can you just repeat the name of the coastal map that you referenced in the start of your question there?
Yeah, so the province has the Nova Scotia Coastal Hazard Map, and basically it's connected to like the Coastal Act that they outline. And in this map, it just outlines where things are at risk of flooding and climate events throughout Nova Scotia. And last time I checked, there has been some risk mapping and it's like they do have limited mapping, but I do know that like the Minas Basin is on their like flood map risk. I could send everyone the link that outlines an area in which they have done assessments on.
Great. Thank you very much, KJ. And Chair, if I could just one other question through to Acting Director Fougere. The Minas Basin flood study, when that was first put out here to this committee, I think there was a link and you'd go to it, but there was nothing really there. It seemed to me there may have been some other sublinks, but there was nothing interactive. It was, has that progressed beyond that, or is it still what I'll call pretty much I guess, a landing area for information. Do you know if I can ask that, or is that going to become interactive in some fashion?
Through your chair, my understanding is all of the information will be released in 2027. So I'm assuming the website is still pretty bare bones, but to be honest, I haven't accessed it recently.
No, it's okay. My recollection is also in the past, and I just didn't know if that. So thank you for that.
Okay, I see no more lights on. So January 2025, the next one on the list of matter question, number of inquiries, RE Bill 177. I think that has something to do with the Housing Accelerator Fund and people applying, or no? Do you want to talk about this, Alex? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Chair. So the bill here was about, I believe, a commercial taxation incentive. And the request was if we, as the planning staff or the municipality, had received any inquiries or questions about this bill, we have contacted the economic development officer with the municipality, and she was able to confirm that we have not received any inquiries on this bill specifically.
Thank you. Mayor Zabian.
That may change in the next week or so. I had a call about 2 days ago from an interested individual, and I sent them your way for Bill 177. So, yeah.
Jane, go ahead, please.
Okay, so that brings us back to communicating with the general public. And I think when Hansport did it just prior to Windsor implementing Bill 177. And we asked that the municipality reach out to all the realtors in the area to let them know that this was a new area where people could look to rehab industrial or commercial properties that they could defer their taxes on for 10 years. And I don't know that that was ever done. So like all the things that appear on the web page, all the announcements of whatever is happening, maybe an announcement like that. Do you local developers, are you interested in a commercial property anywhere within West Hants? We offer the tax incentive under Bill 177. These are the details, or contact us for details. It's an opportunity not to be missed. And so letting the cat out of the bag, basically with that information. And we're going on probably about 7 or 8 years since that was implemented. And to have no one make any inquiries is unfortunate. And hopefully we can change that number to increase a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor Zabian. Yeah.
Just to be clear, it's not constructing a new commercial property. It's a renovation and the increase in assessment, and then it's an offset of the difference over a 10-year period. So you're 90% tax deferral for year 1, 80 year 2, 70 year 3, and blah blah blah, and it works back to you're at your full assessment value as per new value of construction by year 10. Just in case somebody confuses a new commercial build as opposed to renovation or an upgrade of a commercial one, of a current one.
Okay, great. Questions or comments? I see no lights. The last one is, and I don't know if we briefly talked about this earlier tonight, or maybe I'm just remembering the last meeting you all had, the list of DAs and rezonings. So the committee to discuss additional documentation. And I believe that this, sort of so people could have a good sense of where things are sort of in process. And Jane, you alluded to that earlier today or tonight.
Great, thank you. So last meeting, I did thank the planners or whoever it was that went and created that list that's under departments, and you go to planning, and then I think it's the first or second heading in the drop-down menu. It lists all the development agreements and rezonings going back to 2021. And I think that's terrific. That's exactly what people are looking for, but it needs to go just a little step further. People are always asking me, oh, what's happening with that land, or what's happening with that land? And I'm going to say, well, if you see something being built, then you know it's being built. If there's still no activity, then this is the place to go. But the last thing you'll see on the list is council approving a development agreement or approving a rezoning. Now, with a development agreement, it says that you need to have it signed within 120 days. Don't know whether that's been done. So maybe the next item on the list would be the signatures, not the whole thing, but just the signature page and the date, because that date then starts the clock of how many months in the specific development agreement that developer has to complete the first stage or whatever has been noted in that particular development agreement. If there is a water management study or a geotechnical survey, anything that's been outlined in the development agreement that needs to be satisfied, those documents should then appear as well under that particular property, so that the public can see that A, it's been done and passed, or B, it's been done and it didn't pass. And that's why nothing's happening. So I think the more transparent the steps can be to ultimately seeing a building break ground and build up is what everyone is looking for. And I think that would be a great step to answering a lot of people's questions about what's happening. And great things are happening. I'm not saying that they're not, but people are asking the questions. I saw that development go through, but there's nothing happening there. Why? And really, who do you call to ask? I mean, it should be fairly simple, and it is simple now to see all of those things listed. And I think that's great. And I thank again the person who took the time, or the people who took the time to create that list. I think it's wonderful. We just have to go the next few steps for each one.
Thank you. Mayor Zabian, go ahead.
Just on that one as well, Chair, development agreements don't have a timeline, or they don't have an expiration date. It's a legal document between applicant and municipality, and they're usually attached to the PID that's referenced within the DA. So once it's in place unless the applicant or the municipality look to discharge it for some odd reason. But there are no expiration dates on a DA, I guess is the best way to say it.
Okay.
Sorry that I'm not talking about an expiration date on the development agreement, but in the development agreement itself, there are timelines that says the developer needs to begin construction or the phases to get his building permit. There is a timeline for that. So that's what I'm referring to. Not that the development agreement expires completely, but there is a timeline for initiating to get a building permit.
I have a memory. The only example that I can think of is currently in Hansport. There's a new apartment building being constructed, and I know that this committee talked like that went through this committee. Jane, you were here for that a while ago, and there was sort of a big long pause, before anything started to happen in our entire community. Everyone was asking everyone else until the backhoe started to dig or knock down that old building. No one really knew what the process is. So or what stage people were at. And I do appreciate that. But also, having said that, I think that I remember approaching our counselor, I think at that time, and it was still within a certain amount of time. So he really didn't have, answers about that particular thing for me. But with that example, of course, things have progressed and it's clear to people that things are happening. My reluctance with, and I appreciate too, the information that's been created and shared. My reluctance always with, when we make sort of just general recommendations or asks of people, that I do have a worry about staff. I know that they're incredibly busy, and I know that when it comes to sort of keeping something updated, those of us who have websites and things like that, it is not an easy task. It's something that really does require, somebody to really put time and effort in. So I appreciate all the time and effort, like you said, to whoever has done that work. And maybe I encourage everyone to check that out on the website and get a sense of it for sure. I'm always reluctant for us to just sort of say, like, let's have someone do this aspect of this now, because I never want to assume that there is someone available to be updating or to be creating, new pull down menus for information for the public. Uh, yeah, that's just, it's not my opinion. It's just a concern that I have, is that I don't want to like have us sort of demand things of staff, but updates are certainly very, very helpful. And I know that there is a want in the community, especially with bigger builds and things, for people for their curiosity to be sated. I guess they want to know what's happening. Doesn't really help. I haven't, sort of addressed your question or anything, more of a comment, but I'll pass it over to Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, West Hants is interesting, Chair, with its 3 different documents for the former town of Hansport, the former municipality of West Hants, and the former town of Windsor. In the Hansport example, I believe it was a rezoning of the land that allowed for a different structure to go up at that time, not a DA by any means, and once the lot was usable in the way developer want, could have built at any period of time. I know of a structure that recently went up. It was a development agreement. I think it was signed over 20 years ago, and the structure just recently went up. And so there is no timeline once it's in its place. And I guess the takeaway for the public is once a DA is in effect, council has approved, I think, over 2,700 units in the last number of years. So obviously not all 2,700 have been built, but you may see them still coming 15 years from now. It's just it's attached to the actual PIDs in question. So unless it was a land purchase from the municipality that had a specific period of time as per agreement of purchase of land that you must build within
Right.
18 months or something, and that would probably be in a DA for that timeline.
Planner Hong, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So through Chair to the committee member, Jim, thank you for the input on the commencement requirement for the development agreement. I think the one thing I just found out that, yes, that's something we could ask, or that's something we could add it to the development agreement clause because everything how we can regulate through the development agreement is governed by the Municipal Government Act. And doing that act, there's a clause to say provide their development agreement could include something like provide that if the development doesn't commence or is not completed within the time specified in the development agreement or portions of it may be discharged by council without the concurrence of the property owner. So if that's the direction from council or the committee member, definitely that's the avenue we could explore for the future development agreement.
Thank you, Planner. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add into this is, and I don't know when the development agreement started having the conditional clauses in there for a time frame to be signed and or for development to begin. I know it seemed relatively new in my mind back around 2000 when we were doing the high school property and that was coming in. I only say that relative to a piece of land that was sold 20 years ago. For which there's been nothing take place at this point in time. And that's, based on how things were done back then, that they didn't have it. So, if it's with things that we're doing now, then it's something that could be included. But most of those, once the agreement's approved, it is, as the mayor says, it's approved unless council or staff for some reason believe it should go on a discharge list, then we don't see or have, the wherewithal to track that. So, but I do appreciate that initial work has been done getting, I think it's good for people to see that work taking place, just like the business activity reports that we see and so on. It's clearly a good sign. So I appreciate the work that's been done, but I don't know how far you'd end up going back where all of a sudden you'd be running into a wall of there are no terms or timelines built into the agreement. So anyways, for what it's worth.
Additional questions or comments? No, that was our first Q&A. A success. That was great. So a note about the Q&A. Just when Mark, you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just had another question. I don't know if this is the time that I could just ask a question. It's not on anything that was in the Q&A, so I don't know if I have the lenience to ask a question, Chair, or
To be honest, this is our first attempt at this. Generally, we would like for staff, if staff are required to answer a question, we want them to be prepared with materials or, but shoot, go for it. Ask your question.
certainly. So it is a question, and it's 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 to do with the state of emergency from the province for fire protection in Windsor, and this has been an ongoing state of emergency. And the reason I'm thinking about it is because recently we're draining the Lake Pisiquid for the Abateau repairs. But I'm curious if any consideration has been given to this state of emergency and the dry hydrants in Windsor. If this is such a serious issue, have we, the municipality, done anything with these dry hydrants? Like, are we missing an opportunity to extend these dry hydrants out to the main water body, to the center of the river, where it could be usable water for Windsor? Is there any way that we can mitigate this emergency with these dry hydrants? I'm just wondering if we've done anything.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I feel like that might be a question for Public Works more than, like, I'm not sure that anyone sitting around the table, and I'm sort of looking at people's faces, are able to really answer that question. I feel like, Director Richard might be the person to approach with that question. We can do it, vis-a-vis this committee, certainly, or I encourage people as a member of the public, of course, to make that, to inquire about that as well. But yeah, I feel like Public Works might be like the avenue for that. I don't think we have the capacity in this room. I'm not sure it's under the purview of the planners to, do you know what I mean?
Understand. I just wanted to bring it up. I just think, as a development, it is something that needs to happen. If we're in this state of emergency, I'm just wondering, maybe we should be looking at mitigating that emergency some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm hopeful that there are folks watching, who may be able to answer that question for us. And I'm going to keep it in the notes that I have here and see if we can include that maybe with a Q&A in the future, and we'll try and get an answer to that question for you, or perhaps have someone come in and address it. KJ.
So in the future, if we do have questions, like what's the cutoff time so that we have enough time for staff to get that information?
I'm really glad you asked that. So you all, so basically what happens is that, you all know we receive the minutes from this meeting, and then you'll receive an agenda a week and a package a week before our meeting. So often I see the agenda, only the agenda, not the package, in before that, and I always approve it because because I know staff know what they're doing. But to answer your question, the timeline, there is a procedure for both of these things. So based on your conversation that you all had last month in this meeting, really 5 days is what's expected before, the time that everything's meant to go down. But I encourage people, if you have questions, submit them tomorrow, or if it's something that's in your head, you can send it to me. You can send it, I don't want to say to Director Fougere, but I can certainly, if you have questions, I will certainly take them and add them to the Q&A, or to see what we can do for sure. But yeah, so definitely at least 5 days in advance, and more time if possible. And I will point out that as we look to the next point, 8.2, when members of the committee also want to do, for example, a presentation or have information to prepare, it's a similar process, because often that will include materials that you will need to read, or something in your package that will go along with that person's presentation, or the file or whatever that we're talking about. So really, like, as soon as possible after these meetings, but really 5-7 days in advance of the agenda would be great. Jane.
So I'd like to add something to next month's Q&A, and that's a discussion on how to amend the meeting and committee policy. I'm not right if I have the correct name of that. When there are competing recommendations coming out of this committee or any committee to council. And I won't say anything more on that tonight.
Okay, I wrote that down and I'm gonna to make note of that for sure. KJ.
Then I would like to add a construction mitigation fund, and I can create a policy brief for the committee as well.
So you'll have like a little info for us. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Michelle.
Just very quickly for my own, and I'm fine with whatever the group decides. It seems like we're just adding, it's now an agenda item. It's not a Q&A, which is fine, but we're just adding, by being a week out, it's on the agenda now, which we could do before this discussion ever took place. So I'm not sure what the benefit of a Q&A is if we're going to make it similar to adding an agenda item. It's just a duplication, if you ask me.
So yeah, I mean, we'll receive, I think, questions like over the next course of the month. It will still need to be approved. I will still decide whether or not those things sort of, make the agenda based on time and really priority, because it is important that if we add things, even to the Q&A, that they're relevant and they relate to the things that we discuss here as a committee and potentially moving forward, things that we're going to talk about. So yeah, Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Again, I'll ask committee members to refer to the scope of the Planning Area Heritage Advisory Committee. Amending council's committee meeting procedural policy is a council business, and council undertakes that usually once every year. Usually in January, clerk will come and discuss maybe changes. I know council has made changes earlier this year, and the discussion came up on, council keeps on looking at amending this policy. I feel it's outside of the scope of the planning committee, to be honest with you, and I just don't see amending the meeting committee procedural policy as planning related. Just my two thoughts. And
okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
We can discuss it tonight.
Do you know, I am not going to I think I'm going to sort of move on with the meeting. We can discuss it tonight, of course, but I'm not really sure that it's an effective use, the best effective use of our time, considering how long we've been here and the rest of our agenda tonight. But what I will do with this Q&A, and I did speak to staff briefly before the meeting about their comfort levels with the Q&A, and I expressed to them that I did not want the Q&A to just be an all guns a-blazing questions for staff. That will never be the intention of the Q&A. So I encourage you all to send questions that may or may not be included in the Q&A, I guess is how I will answer that question. And I will work with staff to see if they're things that relate to our committee or fall under our purview, because I never want to overstep what it is that this committee our intention is. Okay. So I see no more lights. We're going to move on to 8.2, and I've spoken to Guido. Guido has information for us, and unfortunately, because he's going to win an Academy Award in the future, he's been busy filming a movie. So I've asked him to provide me the information, and I'm going to work with staff, and we're going to make sure that this information is provided to you for our next meeting. So we're going to defer Guido's brief presentation just on the merit that we would prefer that you have more information just for a discussion. And so it's not as off the cuff. And Guido apologized because he's been very busy doing amazing things. So we will add that to the agenda for next month. Okay. So our updates, we don't go through them one by one. Files points 9.1 to 9.8. I do want to open it up to the floor if anyone has any questions about the status of any of these files that we've seen aspects of before. No questions? Okay. So we'll move on to the building and development activity report. I think it's on page 103. So if y'all want to go down there, maybe somewhere down there. And I'm gonna open it up to the floor. So Mayor Zabian, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just one caught my attention. It's under the institutional government at 82.5 million. Is that another mistake on the system? I hope not, but
I saw that one too. It's such a big number.
it's similar to the industrial one we had. I think it was, I'm not sure.
Through the chair to the mayor, that is a good question. I actually got a call the other day from the public asking the same question. So I did some digging into that. So that development specific speaks to, I think, is the long-term care facility. I think it's
Okay.
I forgot
Yeah.
the exact name,
Yeah.
but it's something like the like the
Dykeland
lodge.
Lodge.
Yeah, Dykeland Lodge.
Okay, so the permit just, okay.
Right,
I got it,
exactly.
I got it, all right.
Any other questions about the development and activity report? No? Okay, notices from adjacent municipal units. I'm not sure. I know that there was a letter included in the package from Kings County, but I don't believe there's any other correspondence that we have to discuss. No lights on. There's no one here from the public unless the counselor wants to say no. She's shaking her head no at the back. So we have no one here from the public. Our next meeting date is May 8th, 2025, which is kind of early in the month. It's spring. We'll have Easter by then. Thank you, everyone, for this. I know that it's very unpredictable, the length of these meetings, and every time you come, you just don't know. But I appreciate everyone's commitment and effort. Again, it's amazing. So thank you all. I will look around the table for a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Thank you, Mayor Zabian. That's it, everyone. Have a great night.